She stood barefoot in the center of the church, soaked to the bone. Her dress clung to her like a burial shroud, lace and black cotton dripping onto the wooden floor. The storm outside had blown the door off its hinges, and thunder rolled like judgment through the hills of Missouri. But that wasn't what silenced the men inside. It was her reflection, or lack of it. A dozen gas lamps lined the sanctuary walls. Their flickering light danced in the glass of the windows and the polished silver crucifix behind the altar. Every man in the room had a shadow. Every woman, a mirrored shimmer in the rain-speckled window panes. Except her. Clara Melburne. The widow who had come down from the hills, saying her husband had drowned in the winter floods. She was new to town. And yet she knew everyone's name. Pastor Samuel dropped the Bible he was holding. "Dear God," he whispered. What are you?" Clara didn't answer. She just smiled. A slow, knowing smile that didn't reach her eyes. And as she stepped back into the storm, her bare feet left no prints in the mud. That was March 11, 1869. 3 weeks later, the first man vanished. Please, if you're watching this, I want you to really listen. Because this isn't just a ghost story. It's not just some frontier legend meant to scare children. 5 men disappeared and not a single body was ever recovered. Their families were shattered. Their names erased from records, their lives rewritten in hushed rumors and broken tombstones. Stay with me until the end, because what we uncovered in the Missouri State Archives just last winter changes everything. Some say the devil walks with hooves. Others say she wears a veil and carries no reflection. And the worst part? One of those 5 men wrote a journal. It was sealed in a box and hidden beneath the floorboards of his farmhouse, and we're going to read it. Word for word. But not yet. Because to understand the horror of what happened, we have to go back to the beginning. Not the beginning of Clara Melburne's life. That's another problem. No birth record, no census, not even a church registry. She appears out of thin air in January 1869, renting a cabin on Widow's Peak, overlooking the Ozark Basin. Locals gave her the name, the Mourning Widow, because of the black she wore. But no one had seen her husband. No one had ever visited her home. Except one man. Nathaniel Cray, age 42. A carpenter. Widowed, lonely, and with a soft spot for poetry and piano. He'd moved to Cass County to escape the war and start fresh. He met Clara when she came to the general store to buy nails and lamp oil. 2 weeks later they were married. Nathaniel's brother said it was like something possessed him. He was quiet, thoughtful, methodical, he said. Never rushed into anything. But after he met her, it was like he stopped blinking. Like he was under a spell. They had a small wedding. No family invited. No photographs taken. By April 3rd, Nathaniel was gone. Clara told the townsfolk he'd gone north for lumber work. "He left before sunrise," she said, "and kissed me goodbye." That's all she said. But his horse was still in the stable. His tools still in the shed. And the deed to the property had been signed over to her name, the day before he vanished. Folks began to talk. But no one confronted her. Clara was quiet, polite, charitable even. She donated candles to the church. She brought stew to a sick farmer's wife. She played the organ during Sunday service. And no one ever saw her cast a shadow in daylight. Some wrote it off as superstition. Light playing tricks on the eyes. Missouri fog. Reflections in pond water. But children knew. They said she smelled like wet roses and cold iron. And when she walked past, dogs howled like something old had awakened. By the time the second man vanished in early May, whispers became warnings. His name was Elias Broom. A widower with a boy of 7. He fell ill, folks say, and Clara cared for him at her home. The boy was sent to live with relatives. Elias was never seen again. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th, all within 6 months. Always men with no surviving family, or with children shipped off for their safety. Each time Clara inherited land, livestock, or wealth. She grew richer. And colder. There are letters. Personal, horrifying letters that one of the men, David Pruitt, sent to his cousin in St. Louis. In them he describes Clara's behavior. She does not sleep. She walks the hallways humming in a tongue I do not know. The air in this house is thick with salt and ash, and the mirrors cloud when she passes. But the last letter never arrived. It was found years later in a hollow tree, burned around the edges. The ink still legible. "If this is my final message, tell the Reverend, she is not of this world. She drinks no wine, eats no food, and there are bones in the crawlspace." That crawlspace was never searched. By then Clara had vanished. November 1869. The snow came early that year. A blizzard buried the town in silence. And Clara? She locked her door and never opened it again, until a fire lit the night sky red. Witnesses say it started in her chimney, but it spread too fast, too hot. Her entire cabin went up in flames within minutes. Men ran to save her, but found no body inside. Just ashes. And one mirror, perfectly intact. The next morning, her land was empty. But the strangest part? The mirror showed only smoke. Even today, no grass grows on that patch of earth. Animals won't graze there. And every spring, when the rains come, 5 sets of footprints appear in the mud, walking in a circle around a single barefoot trail that leads nowhere. There's more. Because 6 months after the fire, a little girl playing near the church found a box buried in the roots of an oak tree. Inside were wedding rings. 5 of them. And a scrap of black lace burned at the edges, still smelling faintly of roses. The town buried the rings. The lace was nailed to the church door, a warning. But things don't stay buried in Cass County. Last year, a team of historians and documentarians were granted access to the sealed archives of the Missouri Historical Society. Among the records was a journal wrapped in oilskin, stained and cracked but still intact. It had been sent anonymously in 1933, and it belonged to Nathaniel Cray. We're going to read that journal. But not yet. Because someone returned to Clara's land in 1919, 50 years to the day after the fire. A woman, thin, dressed in mourning black. And she bore a striking resemblance to Clara Melburne. When asked who she was, she said only this: "I've come home. He promised me 6. And then she vanished into the trees. Folks say she walks the ridge still. If you drive through Cass County, Missouri, you'll pass Widow's Peak. It's just a hill now. No structures remain. But on rainy nights, some say you'll see a woman standing in the dark, watching, waiting. And if you look too long, you won't see your own reflection again." The first page of the journal was stuck to the leather. It peeled open like dead skin. March 14, 1869. She came to me again last night. Not in the bed. I would have known if she'd slept beside me. No warmth. Just silence. But I woke to her face inches from mine. Her eyes open. Not blinking. Watching. I asked her what time it was and she whispered, "The hour between breaths." I don't know what that means. The ink was steady, the penmanship careful. Nathaniel had always been precise. But after the 5th entry, the writing shifted. The lines curved wrong. Like his hand was shaking or the pen was moving faster than his thoughts. March 17th. She doesn't eat. Says she's fasting, but I've never seen her cook. The pantry is untouched. No wrappers, no crumbs. I hear her moving at night, pacing the attic. When I asked her what she's doing, she said, "Counting how many came before." There was a mirror in the upstairs hall. I saw myself brushing my hair. She walked behind me and the reflection swallowed her whole. The room went dark. I broke the mirror with my fist. I wrapped my hand and told her it was a carpenter's injury. She didn't blink. That mirror, the one shattered upstairs, was never found in the rubble. But 2 shards were recovered from beneath the hearth, warped and blackened at the edges, and they reflect only candlelight. No shapes. No faces. By entry 10, Nathaniel's sentences became clipped. Afraid. His words begged to be read out loud, as if he hoped someone would find them after whatever he knew was coming. She wears the wedding dress every night. It smells like the riverbank. I tried to lock the bedroom door, but she was already inside. I never saw her walk in. She kissed me and her lips were cold. I swear to God, her breath smells like wet earth. And she hums songs I've never heard. There was a dried smear across the next line. Blood or ink? It's impossible to say. In 1920, a woman named Mabel Hensley, schoolteacher, unmarried, devoutly religious, checked herself into the Topeka State Hospital after reporting nightly visions. She told doctors she dreamt of a woman standing in a cornfield, smiling with no teeth, her face half covered in a veil of black lace. In one dream, the woman handed her a mirror. Mabel woke screaming. Her roommate found her cradling a shard of glass in her palm. No frame, no markings. Just a perfect oval, and no one knew where it came from. She would not let it go. When the nurses tried to take it from her, she whispered, "If I look away, she'll walk in. She's behind me." That mirror now sits locked away in the Missouri State Paranormal Archives. And when light shines on it, it does not reflect the room. Only trees. Leafless. Windless. So, in Nathaniel's journal, something changes after March 23rd. The tone shifts. The fear is still there, but it's buried under something else. An acceptance. A submission. I tried to leave. I packed a bag. I made it to the road before I realized I'd forgotten my hat. When I returned, the door was open. She was on the porch waiting, smiling like she knew I'd come back. She said, "You're not done remembering." That night I dreamed of water. And bones. The bones he refers to appear several more times. They whisper now. From beneath the floorboards. I counted them, 24. Women, I think, buried side by side. She sits on the floor above them and sings. I hear them answer. They don't have tongues. They speak in water. But it's the final journal entry that freezes the blood. No date. Just one sentence, scribbled in a hand that's barely legible. I married a memory. In 1870, a diary belonging to a woman named Eleanor Parrish was discovered in a trunk at a Kansas estate sale. Eleanor lived in Jefferson City, Missouri in 1811, nearly 60 years before Clara Melburne's appearance. In one entry, Eleanor describes a visitor. A woman knocked at my door. Young with sad eyes. Dressed in mourning black. She carried no belongings but asked if she could rest. I made her tea. She never drank it. She told me she was looking for her husband. Said he had died but she could not find him in the next world. That she had to reclaim him before his sixth breath faded. I did not understand. When I asked her name she said, Clara. She left before dawn. I found wet footprints in the parlor. But the ground outside was dry. Could Clara Melburne have lived in 1811? Was it the same woman? Or is Clara not a woman at all? There are legends older than Missouri. European myths of river brides, banshees, and mourning wraiths who lure widowers to their deaths. Spirits who take the form of those we lost and whisper in voices only the grieving can hear. One such tale comes from Germany, the Nixenfrau, a water spirit who appears as a drowned bride. She seduces men mourning their wives, promising to reunite them, but only in death. She carries no shadow, and no reflection. A chilling detail in the Nixenfrau legends. Her victims die in silence, but their last act is always the same. They dig as if burying something. That's precisely what was found in the cellar of the final man who vanished, David Pruitt. Shovels, ropes, an open pit lined with rose petals and candle wax. No body, just a dress, black lace soaked in water and a single gold ring. And something else, an empty mirror frame hung with wire, suspended from the ceiling. There's a note pinned to the wall beside it. She said if I could see myself once more, I'd be free. David never saw himself again. But someone else did. Because in 1956, a group of teens exploring the ruins of Clara's cabin found a broken mirror hidden behind the fireplace stones. It was wrapped in a velvet shawl. On the back was carved, "To my sixth." Six. That word again. Nathaniel, Elias, David. 3 names we know. The others are still being traced through land deeds and inheritance filings. But none of them were ever found. 5 men. 5 vanishings. And always she said she was waiting for her 6th. That's when the story should end, isn't it? But it doesn't. Because in 1979, a woman was pulled from the Missouri River. She was alive. Her skin was blue, her dress black. She was barefoot. She said her name was Clara. Police thought she was mentally ill. But when they ran her prints, there were none. Not even scars. She was released to a care home, where she spent 6 years before vanishing again, this time from a locked room. But a nurse kept something from her belongings. A mirror. Still unbroken. Still blank. There's a phenomenon in trauma therapy called mirror misidentification. It happens when patients see their own reflection but claim it isn't them. They insist someone else is in the mirror. Someone watching. This has happened more frequently in Cass County than anywhere else in Missouri. And all the cases have one thing in common. The patients all had dreams of a woman in a veil. A woman offering them a reflection. Do you see the thread yet? What if Clara isn't a ghost? What if she's a pattern? A haunting that moves through time, attaching itself to grief? Widows become her. Widowers fall prey to her. And those who see her are marked. In 2015, a man named Luther Kane bought land near Widow's Peak. He was an artist, a recluse. After 2 years he stopped leaving the house. Locals said he became obsessed with mirrors. When police entered his home after a welfare call, they found every wall covered in reflective surfaces. Some normal, others handmade. None of them showed his face. They found his body in the basement, surrounded by paintings of the same woman. Pale, black veil, no eyes. He had written on the walls. She doesn't want to be remembered. She wants to be seen. This story may feel too old to matter. 1869 feels like a lifetime ago. But if you're watching this and think it's just some cursed fairy tale, ask yourself, Why are there sealed records in the Missouri Historical Society? Why are there still reported sightings? And why does her name keep reappearing? Because somewhere, someone is grieving. And Clara waits for that. She waits for loss. She waits for silence. She waits until you look into the mirror and see something that doesn't blink when you do. Watch closely, because the next name she whispers might be yours. She was supposed to be dead. By all records, Clara Melburne burned with her cabin in the winter of 1869. Her land was reclaimed by the county, her possessions auctioned, her name slowly scraped away by time. But evil doesn't rot like bodies do. And in 2001, evil wore a wedding dress again. It happened in Canesville, Missouri, just a few miles from the ruins of Widow's Peak. A young couple was set to be married at St. Luke's Chapel, a small wooden church surrounded by old farmland and fog-choked trees. The groom's name was Aaron Wade. He was 27, born and raised in town, good reputation, no known enemies, and deeply in love. But during the wedding rehearsal, something strange happened. The photographer took a test photo, just a casual shot of Aaron standing near the altar, laughing with his best man. That photo was never meant to be printed. But when the film was developed, Aaron wasn't alone. Standing beside him, just to his left, was a woman in black, lace veil, barefoot, eyes like hollow wells. No one in the church had seen her. No one remembered anyone standing there. The photo is blurred, distorted, like it's warping around her. But her face, or what's visible of it, matches the 1869 portrait sketch of Clara Melburne from the Cass County Archives. Same high cheekbones, same tight jaw, same dead stare. Aaron never showed up to his own wedding. The doors were locked from the outside. The car untouched. No signs of struggle. The only clue? His boutonniere was found floating in the chapel's baptismal font, petals soaked, pin missing. There's no grave, no goodbye. Just a bride who never left and a groom who never arrived. 2 months ago, in the attic of a farmhouse that once belonged to Nathaniel Cray's cousin, we found a chest. It was sealed with rope and animal bone. Inside, books, a rosary, a child's lock of hair, and an envelope with a name written on it that has never until now been connected to Clara. Margarethe Adelheid Furstenfeld. The handwriting was unmistakably 19th century. Germanic flourishes. Ink faded but preserved. We searched immigration logs. A woman by that name arrived in New Orleans in 1846, listed as 16 years old. Her occupation, wet nurse. Her sponsor, private employer, Missouri. That employer's name? Redacted. She vanished from all records 2 years later. No death. No marriage. But the letter in the envelope, written in a shaking, terrified hand, offers a clue. She does not age. She does not eat. And she speaks to me as if I am someone I've never been. She calls me Clara. Says it's my name now. That I must forget the water. Forget the storm. Forget the infant. She makes me repeat it. I am Clara. I am Clara. I am Clara. But I am not. This changes everything. Was Clara not a ghost, but a victim first? Or was she something older, something that wears people like garments, peeling their memories away until they forget who they were? Is the reflection what dies, while the body lives on? There's a psychologist named Dr. Lenora Kells. She spent years studying cases of mirrored identity collapse, where people swear that what they see in the mirror is not them. They recognize their features but not their presence. In her 2014 study, she recounts a patient who woke each night at 3:13 a.m. to a knocking sound. No door, no windows disturbed. Just a mirror in the hallway, always fogged despite no heat or moisture in the air. The patient eventually placed a sheet over it. That night, she dreamed of drowning. When Dr. Kells asked her to describe what she saw in the mirror the last time she looked, the woman replied, "She had my face, but she was waiting for me to stop pretending." Back in Missouri, we interviewed a man named Gerald Stokes, 83 years old, born and raised near Widow's Peak. His father, according to family legend, had once seen the widow himself, walking along the frozen creek with her veil dragging in the snow. Gerald's voice shook when he spoke. "My dad said she didn't walk on the ground. She walked with it, like it moved for her. Said she looked right at him and smiled, and he felt like he forgot who he was. That was the day he stopped calling me son." Gerald keeps a broken mirror in his barn. Says it was found in the ashes of an old hunting cabin that burned down in 1931. Etched into the back is the word sex. German for six. We're chasing more than a ghost. We're chasing a pattern, a curse, a parasitic memory that feeds off grief, takes root in loss, and becomes stronger every time someone believes they're safe. Every time someone says, she's gone, she isn't. She waits. And when the sixth is chosen, she becomes real again. If you've ever lost someone and felt them watching you in the mirror, maybe it wasn't memory. Maybe it wasn't your reflection. Maybe she's just waiting for you to grieve hard enough to let her in. There's a word that keeps showing up. 6. Not 5 victims. Not 7. Always 6. Nathaniel Cray, Elias Broom, David Pruitt, and 2 more men whose names were discovered through land transfers in Cass County between 1869 and 1870. Farmers. Both widowers. Both gone without record or burial. That makes 5. So, who was the 6th? We thought it might be Aaron Wade, the groom who vanished in 2001. But no mirror was recovered. No journal. No ritual. Just a photo. But then we found her name again, buried in a marriage license, dated February 1868. The groom, Robert Melburne. The bride, Clara E. Whitlock. They were married at a Lutheran church just outside Weston, Missouri. Witnesses listed include Reverend Holden and a housekeeper named Louise Farr. According to local legend, Robert Melburne drowned in the Missouri River exactly 9 months later. No body was found. Locals assumed it was an accident. But the Reverend's journal, which was uncovered during renovations in 1982, tells a different story. There was something wrong with the bride. I don't say this lightly. I've married many grieving souls, many mismatched pairs, but the way she looked at him, it wasn't love. It was hunger. She never blinked. Her hand was ice. And when I tried to bless their union, she whispered something under her breath. Not English. Not Latin. My vision blurred. The flame in the lantern went black. This was the 6th. Robert Melburne was her final victim before she took his name. Which means the Clara the town met in 1869 wasn't searching for a husband. She had already found him. She was becoming him. Becoming them all. It's hard to explain what grief does to the human mind. It distorts time. Memory. It whispers things you're not supposed to hear. And for the vulnerable, the lonely, the heartbroken, grief opens a door. That's where she lives. Not in a house. Not on land. But in that moment, that fragile silence, between what was lost and what still breathes. A crack in the mirror. In 2023, a woman named Caroline Trest contacted us after watching a documentary segment we'd released on Clara Melburne. She lives in Nevada now but was born in Missouri. Her great-grandmother was Louise Farr, the housekeeper listed on the 1868 marriage license. Caroline inherited a music box from her grandmother. It was old, German. The tune was haunting and slow, but it had a hidden compartment. Inside, a black lace ribbon, and a note barely legible. She said 6 would be enough, but she lied. Caroline said she used to hear the music play at night, even when it was closed, even when there was no key inside. And sometimes, when she walked past the mirror in the hallway, she saw 2 versions of herself. One watching, one waiting. If you've come this far, if you're still watching, I want you to sit with this for a second. What if Clara isn't a woman? What if she isn't even a ghost? What if she's a choice? A consequence? A whisper passed down through generations of loss, waiting for someone to hurt deeply enough to believe, just for a moment, that something could bring them back? That's how it starts. A scent, roses on a winter wind. A flicker, movement behind glass. And then, silence. Because she never arrives loudly. She waits until you're already alone. Already broken. Already reaching. In the very last entry of Nathaniel Cray's journal, which we didn't read in part 2, he described something we've been trying to verify ever since. He said Clara took him to the river. She said it would be like sleep. She said the water remembers what the body forgets. She told me if I let go, she could wear me longer. I felt my lungs collapse. I didn't scream. I didn't struggle. I just let go. And then, I watched her walk away wearing my name. He ended it with one final, scribbled line, not in ink but in blood. If you see her, don't speak. Don't mirror her. Don't follow. There's a photo taken in 2021 by a nature photographer hiking near the Missouri River. A foggy dawn shot focused on the shoreline. But just at the edge of the trees, nearly swallowed by mist, stands a figure. Long black dress. Barefoot. And even though the river is behind her, she casts no reflection in the water. The photographer didn't see her in person. Only in the image. That camera was found weeks later, alone, half buried in mud. The photographer was never seen again. This is where it ends. Not with an exorcism. Not with a confession. But with a quiet realization that some things don't want to be solved. Some stories feed off attention. And Clara? She doesn't want peace. She wants presence. She wants to be known, to be feared, to be seen. That's why you're here, isn't it? Because part of you wondered if it was true. Part of you looked too long at your own reflection and felt someone else looking back. Just remember this. If you ever hear a soft knock at night, if you smell roses when there are none, if you see someone in the mirror who's not quite you, don't blink. Don't ask her name. And whatever you do, don't follow her into the silence.